World Health Organization is having an emergency meeting right now on whether or not the coronavirus is a global emergency and what steps need to be taken next. And all of this is happening as a Carnival-owned cruise ship with 6,000 people on board. You're looking at live shots of that ship right now is on lockdown in Italy. A Chinese couple from Hong Kong are said to be showing signs of the virus. For more, we're joined by Anjalee, Khemlani, and Brian Cheung. Brian, we had some news cross the wires just now. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross said in an interview this situation could bring jobs back to America. Make sense of that for us.
Well, it seems like that's a little bit of A to B to C to maybe even D here.
Yeah.
So first of all, we do have to acknowledge that this is a human story. So of course, lives being lost is never something, and I think we need to acknowledge that when we talk about this virus. But secondly, the implications on the U.S. economy are actually not so clear right now. Keep in mind that the outbreak is really something that's still in its early stages. At least that's what Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell said in his press conference yesterday. The Federal Reserve, for its part being the largest central bank in the world, said it's monitoring what's going on, but it really doesn't necessarily see or wants to jump to any conclusions right now about what the implications are going to be to the U.S. economy from a job standpoint, from a prices standpoint, from any standpoint, really.
I mean, I guess his thought process is because it's in China and many companies rely on China for their supply chain, because of the virus outbreak, they will have to look elsewhere for supply chain needs, and he's thinking that might happen in the U.S. and Mexico?
Well, possibly, but, actually, Chairman Powell had a statistic yesterday saying that 85% of the U.S. economy is domestic activity, so only 15% of that will be outside, and not all of that is even China. But yes, China is a large part of the global economy, and he said that this could definitely have implications in the short term, not just to the Chinese economy, but to the global economy as well, particularly for those more geographically close to China, those that trade more heavily with China. But as far as the impact to the United States, where the Fed's mandate is really about the conditions domestically, tough to kind of make any conclusions right now.
Anjalee, if the WHO comes out and declares this an emergency, what happens next?
It makes it more official for what's already been happening, which is there will be travel bans around the world. Already some countries are taking, their own steps, especially those in the region. We know that Hong Kong limited, travel to and from the mainland, as well as Russia is considering closing off its borders. We've had travel restrictions. All airlines are really taking it into their own hands. Delta, United, British, a lot of the regional airlines as well have really been pushing not either restricting and reducing their load or completely canceling flights. And we also saw, with the cruise lines, they've also been doing the same as well. Because the thing that they're looking at is it may not be a deadly virus in the sense that healthy people do have a chance of getting over it, but it's one that is spreading so quickly and without people knowing, because you could catch it from someone before even they show symptoms. So that's the biggest problem.
That's the really scary part. And of course, now we have biopharma, healthcare companies racing to try to come up with a solution for this. What does this mean for stocks of those companies?
Well, they're definitely doing better. They rallied in the first few days, but they've sort of been coming down a little because we realize that they can't really do anything, right? That's the thing that people need to remember, is that even though they're working on it right now, it's not going to be in time to serve this outbreak. We're just learning what the sort of like the genetic sequencing of this outbreak is, the strain of the virus. And so they're working with that. So it's going to take a lot of time, the usual, timeline of research and development to get to where we need.
Brian, you're really getting the sense that this could hit first quarter U.S. growth, if not global growth, pretty significantly. Is this the type of situation where Chair Jerome Powell would cut interest rates because of that slowdown in growth?
Well, again, what he said yesterday is that, he doesn't want to provide any sort of a projection or estimates on exactly what the impact will be on the U.S. But he did say broadly, look, if there's a Chinese slowdown, regardless of whether or not it's coronavirus or anything else, there were kind of, secular trends of Chinese growth slowing anyway, that would impact the United States. So he said that this is something that the Federal Reserve needs to watch. I know monitoring is a word that the Federal Reserve has used in many different types of circumstances. He refreshed it and brought that word back up again yesterday. That's something that the Federal Reserve is going to be watching over the next few months to see if it's persistent enough where it would have perhaps a pretty material impact on GDP growth in the United States, to a point where maybe the Federal Reserve would need to act. Jerome Powell kind of saying yesterday, we don't necessarily see that as the case right now.
Anjalee, the headlines, of course, are being grabbed by coronavirus, but this is flu season.
Yep.
And how do the numbers for coronavirus versus flu shape up?
So flu is more deadly. That's definitely, we've had thousands more die in the U.S. annually from the flu than from coronavirus. And that goes back to, what is really the reason behind this concern for this virus? Should we be as concerned about it? And why is the World Health Organization even meeting to try and declare this an emergency? So yes, it is flu season. Please get your shots.
And your masks.
And the masks.
Seeing more and more people walking around with those.
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, it is, comparably, the flu is more deadly, period.
All right, Anjalee, Khemlani, Brian Cheung, thanks so much, guys.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.